Hey there, welcome back to Lead Your Life with Debbie Heiser. I am so grateful you're here today, and I want to talk about something that I think is quietly affecting a lot of high achieving leaders, entrepreneurs, and purpose driven humans in 2026, and that's burnout. But not the burnout you've heard about before, not the I'm tired kind of burnout or I need a vacation kind of burnout. It's the kind of burnout that happens when your identity, your nervous system, and your ambition are no longer working together. They're out of alignment. So, in this episode, if it's for you, if you've ever thought, I know what to do, I just can't seem to make it myself do it, or no matter how hard I push, the needle barely moves. You're not broken. The model you were taught simply doesn't work anymore. So, listen in. Welcome to Lead Your Life, the podcast for people who are seeking harmony in business and in life. My name is Debbie Heiser, and I'm an inner mastery and business mindset coach and the chief igniter here at the Lit Up Life. I feel an urgency to help people let go of past messaging so that they can make a lot of money doing what they love without sacrificing what they value most. Welcome, we're glad you're here. Straight from the corners of my mind. Hey there, Debbie here. Welcome back to Lead Your Life with Debbie Heiser. I mentioned earlier that I was really excited about this episode, and partially because I think burnout is a overused word, but it's very real. And I want to dig into why pushing harder is really failing us. For decades, the success formula was simple. It was work harder, achieve more, hustle more. You want something, do more. But let's be honest. I don't know about you, but I don't want 2026 to be designed that way. And I don't think you really do either. I'm really tired of the bullshit, really, of hustle more. If I hear one more time, get up a half an hour earlier to do XYZ, I'm going to vomit. It's really crap. And it's really tough on our nervous system. And it's tough on those internal voices in our heads. So let's face it, really, the state of the world these days has everyone on edge. And so your nervous system is absorbing like if you think about it, your nervous system, your mind, all of those things are absorbing more information before breakfast than what your grandparents took in a week. The world is louder, expectations are higher, and our brains have not evolved as quickly as our environment has changed. So, what happens? Well, when our body feels overwhelmed, it doesn't come out and say, yeah, let's push harder. It says, I'm not safe, shut down. Right? Because our brains are wired to protect and preserve. So burnout isn't a motivation issue, it's a capacity issue. And when I say capacity, I don't mean that we have the capacity to do more. There are people in my life that can bang things out and do the work of two or three people compared to what other people do. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about aligned actions. I'm talking about when your identity is like identity is aligned, and I'll get to that here in a minute. But what happens with the burnout really is I'm getting ahead of myself here, but what happens in the burnout is your identity is demanding output and our nervous system can't sustain it. Our nervous system is tired. We're like a copy machine that's been running 24/7 with no breaks. And I want to ask you, how many of you have stories of where you were pushing harder and it just made you more unhappy? And frankly, it had you freeze, not taking any action at all. I have, with business, with relationships. In third quarter of 2025, I was frustrated and my coach called me out on it, because I believe in vibration, so does she. And I was vibrating frustration. She said to me, I was buying into a story of this wham, 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 right? I'm doing all the stuff. I'm relaxed. Yeah, right. And it, in quotation marks, just isn't happening. I was waking up at night. My mind was spinning. I was feeling tired because of lack of sleep. And I just wasn't being present in the day due to the same thing. My mind just constantly spinning and being a little bit in that anxiety piece because I was thinking about the future. So I grounded myself. Now, what does that really mean? I started my intentional gratitude again. And granted, this was after my counselor suggested it. So part of that grounding was reaching out to a counselor and saying, hey, can I come in and talk to you? Because, I take in a lot during the day with clients. I showed up and I was talking to her and I was in this wah, wah, wah thing. And she's like, so do you ever practice gratitude? And I'm like, screw you. I teach this stuff. And so I laugh because it's so easy to fall back into some old habits. So I started that intentional gratitude again. And I started connecting with people again. When I start to isolate and I don't leave my house because I was working at home because I had a new puppy and it was easier, and I love to connect with people. So I started connecting with people again. I went back to my morning routine and my evening routine. Now I'm getting ready to shift that again because my dog has a little bit different law of rhythm than I do, and I want to be able to maximize my time. So with that being said, those things ground me. They help me feel security and safety. And going into 2026, I'm creating some masculine structure that I've used in the past, and I'm shifting it slightly because it allows for my feminine to show up, right? It allows for me to be open to receive. So, and it slows my nervous system down. So it helped me out of this graspiness, right? This like almost desperation energy. And now it's happening, right? I stopped hustling and I started attracting again. Many of you have followed me for a long time and you've heard me talk about this idea of the law of attraction. And as a matter of fact, I'm getting ready to do a workshop on that in a masterclass. So, what I really did was I got in alignment with my values again and really looked at what was important to me, and hence why I started doing the grounding and connecting with people. So, here's something really when we think about our identity and our nervous systems, because anytime this happens, where we start to feel burnout or we start to feel this like chaos tension in our nervous system, it usually means we're up leveling. And what happens is our identity has shifted, but our nervous system hasn't caught up, right? Our voice in our head, that critical parent hasn't caught up. So we don't really talk about this very much, but I believe our results won't ever exceed the level that our nervous system feels safe receiving. So many of us are taught not to receive. How many times have you gone out and somebody wanted to buy your lunch or coffee and you argue with them? That is a level of receiving. I started as a habit now. If someone offers to buy something, I'll say, you know what? Thank you so much. That was not expected, but it's very much appreciated. Because I found myself arguing with someone wanting to give me a gift, and that was a direct reflection of my ability to receive. So think about how you receive. I now allow people to open the door for me. There's little things like that that I have implemented into my life to remind me to step back and receive because, again, I cannot outperform the capacity of my nervous system. And that nervous system is about slowing down, grounding myself, and being open to receiving. So, you may intellectually want a successful business. You may, in your mind, want a thriving year in 2026. You may want deeper relationships, more income. But if your nervous system reads those desires as pressure, I've talked about before where I was like all of a sudden building this big, huge company again, and I felt all this pressure like it was in a pressure cooker because of these messages in our head, it's just not going to work. Because if your nervous system reads it as pressure or exposure or risk, it will sabotage your efforts every single time because your nervous system and your brain, I'm kind of talking about the two together here, right? Because the brain has these messages that if I am pressured or if I'm exposing myself or taking some masks off or I'm taking a risk, it's trying to protect and preserve. So this is why trying harder doesn't help. This is why I hate New Year's resolutions, right? We create these New Year's resolutions and then we just think it's discipline. And I'm going to talk about that here in a minute because when we try harder, it doesn't help because our body is saying, I don't feel safe at this speed. People ask me, how did you get rid of overwhelm? Well, I upgraded my nervous system. I upgraded my thinking. I upgraded my mindset. So if your identity still says things like, I have to prove myself, or I need to earn my worth, or there's something wrong with me, or I can't slow down or I'll fall behind, then your body and your identity are at war. And this is the tension, the dichotomy of tension where burnout is born. So, how does this apply to our personal life and our professional life? For many people, this burnout shows up as you snap at people you love. For me, I yell at people in my car as I'm driving. I feel numb or disconnected. You may lose joy in things that used to light you up. And you may find that you need more and more recovery time. You're feeling tired all the time, and it becomes a habit that you're tired. You're not taking care of your own self with nutrition, with water, with your morning and nighttime structures. So take a moment and really self evaluate. Are you doing any of those things? Are you a little more irritable than normal? Are you feeling a little more disconnected to yourself and to others? Do you not find that you see joy as much as you used to? Kind of take a little inventory of that. Because what ends up happening is your nervous system says, please don't make me push. This is scary. It's a risk. You can't do this. Right. And it tries to stop you every single time. Now, another like application that I want you to think about in your professional life, whether you work for someone or an organization or whether or not you own your own business, professionally, burnout can look like you overthink every decision. You ask a gazillion other people what you should do. If I offend you, my apologies up front, but I hate it when people put things out on social media like, which photo is the best, or what should I name my new program? Because what that just tells me is that they don't believe in themselves, right? That they're kind of burnt out and they don't want to make a decision and hold themselves accountable for that decision. Because it's really easy to have other people kind of influence you because then you can blame them if it didn't go right, right? Again, our brain is trying to protect and preserve, and it's sneaky. Like some of you may not have ever thought about it that way before, and it's just sneaky, right? It also shows up in procrastination, right? We push things off. We don't follow up on things. We don't follow through. We don't take personal accountability. I was mentioning that. And we blame others for things. We have inconsistent energy. We might be like super excited one day and then we're like super low the next. Now, there is a rhythm, right? And our body has rhythms. I'm not saying that, but it's just this up and down, up and down, up and down, which is exhausting. There's also this sense that you're always behind and it can feel really heavy, right? Like emotionally and intellectually, your business can feel really heavy. And many people wrongly assume, and I don't use that word wrong very often, but we make an assumption that we need to fix our discipline, that we just need to be more disciplined, when really we have to change our messaging and we have to regulate our capacity. And regulating capacity is changing the message, right? Regulating capacity is how much life, responsibility, success, emotion, money, visibility, and power that our nervous system can hold without going into protection. And again, it goes into protection because of the messages in our brain. So, regulation is your ability to stay present, grounded, and open while holding and like looking at and saying, okay, there's this message that's coming into my brain. My self-talk is coming in a little bit. I'm going to be aware of that, but I'm going to put it over here because I want to stay present. I want to stay grounded. I want to be open. I'm confident. I know what I'm here for. So I'm talking about training yourself, your brain, which then attaches to your nervous system to safely hold more without forcing or bracing or collapsing. It's not just mindset, it's not discipline, it's not trying harder. It's physiologically, I can't say that word today. It's your physiology, it's your identity, which is part of mindset, and it's your safety. Safety is built into mindset and your critical parent, right? So there's a whole lot to unpack in that. So if you want to unpack some of that, please reach out to me because I'd be happy to walk through that with you. But one of the things that it shows up specifically for me is like I don't struggle with vision or insight or depth. I don't really struggle with truth or spiritual understanding. But what happens for me is I sometimes tighten at the moment of expansion. And it's not because I'm afraid of success, but because success requires me to stay open longer than I was taught was safe. Right. So I've been working on this myself. And a lot of high capacity people, especially leaders and generators, if you're into human design, Our nervous system, we learned if I hold it all, I'll be responsible for everyone. Or if I stay open, I'll be taken from, right? Like I'll be vulnerable. And if I relax, balls will drop, right? It can't run without me. Well, that's pretty presumptuous, really. So we've learned these systems and we learn to brace ourselves instead of opening up and receiving. If I have a bird and I am, bracing myself, I'm clutching. But if I'm open and I'm receiving, right, that's a very different bird. That's a very different thing that happens to that bird. So what works? So the new model really is about regulating your nervous system, aligning your identity, and that's those messages in your head, and being able to up level, being able to take that critical parent and say, thank you for your insight. Now I need for you to kind of be quiet a little bit. And then having focused effort, meaning aligned action, that creates sustainable expansion. It's not hustle, it's not grind, it's not over explaining or over performing, because if we're over explaining things, we're in our adolescent. And if we think about the most successful leaders, and in 2026, the most successful leaders are going to be the ones that know how to work with their mind, with their body, and with their soul, right? It's about working with that nervous system. It's about allowing the identity shift to happen and really getting your arms around it before you force behavior. Now, I'm not saying wait for everything, but as your identity shifts, taking baby steps, right? To accept that, having people around you that believe in you so that you can start to believe in it more yourself. And then making sure you're choosing aligned action instead of panicked action or reacting, right? Responding to people instead of reacting. So I have a client that has had some tightness of money stories, right? Very nervous about money and is there going to be enough? Um, and what's interesting is as she has walked through this with me, and she's been in a mastermind and she's also been a private client, and she is a real estate agent. And so this nervousness was creating panic for her, and it created tightness, and it created her not seeing abundance but lack. As she shifted that, what's happening is as she is like lowering her nervousness, as she's uncovering more and more of getting rid of this, like, I'm bad or I'm trying to be a good student kind of thought process, she's paying off debt, and these are real estate investments that she's paying debt off of. She's increased her income in fourth quarter, even though society says it's the worst time for real estate. And she's taking more and more risk with travel, with relationships, and with herself. And she's trusting herself. And that it's coming. The things are happening around her, right? So I wanted to give you some examples that weren't just me. So I want to offer up some reflection questions for you as you integrate some of this. Where are you pushing instead of listening and allowing for the pull? Where are you criticizing yourself? What part of you doesn't feel safe slowing down? We've been taught to go, go, go. It goes back to that copy machine. If we run a printer or a coffee machine 24/7 without maintenance, it breaks down so much faster and more frequently. So think of yourself as a well-oiled machine. What messages do you have around slowing down to speed up? And many people roll their eyes when I say that. What identity do you have of yourself that you're still trying to prove? And who are you trying to prove it to? So reflect on those a little bit. And I would love it if you share in the comments out on YouTube or wherever you listen to this, so that I can kind of understand a little bit more about what you're going through. But I want you to know, no matter what, your burnout isn't a flaw. It's communication, it's perspective, it's just misalignment. And frankly, it's just brain science and your body's nervous system reacting to the messages in your head. So keep in mind that your nervous system isn't blocking your success. And when I feel this, I know I'm about to level up. Which I did, by the way, in fourth quarter. And I'm like, bring it on, right? Because what's on the other side is pretty awesome. So take a bit of time to slow down, smell the coffee or the roses, depending on where you live, and seriously allow your nervous system to calm down so you can receive and take it all in. Now, I want to preempt you. We have a guest coming up this month And in February, you're going to see a new name, a new look and feel, and our new season is going to launch. And then in March, I'm super excited because we have some fun things coming in April that if you haven't been a part of my community and you want to kind of join in, learn a little bit more that's a little deeper than the podcast, this will be your opportunity. So with that, folks, it's a wrap. Everybody have a great week, and we'll talk to you in a couple weeks. That's a wrap for this conversation. I'm so glad you've joined us. Remember to subscribe to the podcast so you can catch all of our future episodes, and visit us at thelituplife.com for details on how you can become part of the Lit Up Life community. A quick shout out to my friend Jackie Wilson and her friends, the creators of our amazing theme music. Thanks so much for allowing us to share this perfect song with our listeners. Looking forward to having you listen in to our next episode.